In 1945, the Soviet Union had won one of the most devastating wars in history. But it had also lost something they urgently needed. Its working dog lines were shattered completely. The breeds that had guarded, hunted, and served the Red Army for generations were functionally gone. Millions of dogs dead, bloodlines extinct, and Stalin's military needed a replacement fast. What they built next was not just a dog, it was an engineering project, a state-sponsored attempt to construct the perfect guardian from scratch. And somehow, almost no one outside of Russia has ever heard of it. This is the Moscow Watchdog. The story begins in the ruins of post-war Europe. By the late 1940s, Soviet military leadership had tasked the Red Star Kennel, the USSR's official state breeding program, with a specific task. Create a large, powerful protection dog capable of guarding military installations, prisons, and remote Soviet facilities across the harshest climates on Earth. The brief was almost absurdly demanding. The dog had to be enormous. It had to be fearless but controllable. It had to withstand Siberian winters without special care. And it had to be stable enough in temperament that conscript soldiers, not professional handlers, could work with it. This would be a huge challenge. And in fact, many failures came from the kennels where dogs were far too aggressive for purpose. The solution the Red Star breeders settled on was a cross between two very different dogs, the St. Bernard and the Caucasian Shepherd dog. The St. Bernard brought size, a calm disposition, and an iconic capacity to endure cold. The Caucasian Shepherd, one of the most formidable livestock guardian breeds on the planet, brought raw protective instinct, territorial aggression, and a physical toughness built over centuries of fighting off wolves in the Caucasus Mountains. Together, breeders believed they could produce something that was neither purely reactive nor purely docile, something in between. Early crosses were unstable. Temperament was unpredictable. Breeders cycled back and forth between the foundation breeds, occasionally introducing other lines to stabilize conformation and drive. The process took years. It wasn't until the 1950s and 1960s that a recognizable, consistent type began to emerge. The Moscow Watchdog was officially recognized as a breed by Soviet sinological authorities in 1958, though serious refinement continued well into the 1980s. This was never a breed that happened organically. It was designed, top-down, with military specifications. And that matters enormously for understanding what this dog is and how it behaves today. Let's talk about what you're actually dealing with if you own one of these dogs. The Moscow Watchdog is massive. Males typically weigh between 100 and 150 pounds, and dogs at the upper end of that range are not unusual. They carry the St. Bernard's characteristic bulk, broad skull, heavy bone, deep chest, combined with the Caucasian Shepherd's more athletic, muscular build. The coat is dense and double-layered, built for cold. The color is almost always red and white, echoing the St. Bernard heritage that's immediately visible in the face and frame. But make no mistake, this is not a St. Bernard with extra aggression bolted on. The Caucasian Shepherd influence runs deep. These dogs are territorial by nature, with a strong guarding instinct that is not trained in. It is simply there, from birth, waiting. Moscow Watchdogs are alert to strangers, suspicious of unfamiliar people on their territory, and fully capable of acting on that suspicion without a command to do so. At the same time, with family, with the people they have bonded to, they are notably affectionate and loyal. This is one of the genuinely interesting things about the breed. The Soviet breeders actually succeeded in building a dog that could be firm and threatening with outsiders, while remaining gentle and manageable with handlers. That dual nature is the whole point of the breed. They are also intelligent, though not in the eager-to-please way of a retriever or a herding dog. These are independent thinkers. They assess situations. They make decisions. That can be an asset in a genuine protection scenario and a significant challenge for an owner who isn't clear, consistent, and experienced. The Moscow Watchdog is not a beginner's dog. That needs to be said plainly for anyone who may be interested. The combination of size, territorial instinct, and independent intelligence means that an under-socialized or poorly managed Moscow Watchdog is a serious problem. These dogs need early, thorough socialization, exposure to people, places, sounds, and other animals before the window closes. They need a handler who understands dominant type breeds and who can establish clear structure without resorting to harsh methods that will backfire badly with a dog this confident. What they do not need is a sedentary lifestyle or a passive owner. Moscow Watchdogs require consistent exercise and meaningful mental engagement. They are working dogs by design, not by accident, and a bored, understimulated Moscow Watchdog will make its own decisions about what to do with that energy, and those decisions will rarely match yours. Despite their imposing presence, they are not naturally aggressive within the household. With children, they know well. They tend to be patient and watchful, more inclined to monitor than to play, but tolerant and gentle when the relationship has been properly established. That protective instinct extends to the whole family unit, not just the primary handler. Done correctly, the ownership experience is something most people who've had the breed describe as deeply rewarding. These dogs form powerful bonds. They are serious and alert on duty, and warm and affectionate off it. Owners consistently describe a kind of quiet dignity to the breed, a dog that watches everything, misses nothing, and is always aware of its household. Here's where the story gets interesting in a different way. Outside of Russia and parts of Eastern Europe, the Moscow Watchdog is extraordinarily rare. Western Europe has a small but dedicated community of breeders. The United States and Canada have almost none. This is a breed that was built for a specific geopolitical context, the Soviet military state. And when that context collapsed, the dog nearly went with it. Post-Soviet Russia saw a sharp decline in state-sponsored breeding programs. The Red Star Kennel's resources evaporated. Dedicated civilian breeders stepped in to preserve the lines, but the population never rebounded to anything like its Soviet-era numbers. Today, the Moscow Watchdog exists in a kind of liminal space, recognized by the Russian Kynological Federation, acknowledged but not fully standardized internationally, kept alive by enthusiasts who believe in what the breed was built to be. There is something quietly remarkable about that. A dog engineered by a superpower, now preserved by a handful of committed breeders who simply find the breed irreplaceable. No marketing, no kennel club politics driving a revival, just people who encountered this dog and couldn't walk away from it. The Moscow Watchdog is not the dog for everyone. Its size alone rules it out for most households. Its temperament requires commitment, experience, and respect. But for the right person, someone who understands working dogs, who can provide structure and space and genuine engagement, there may be nothing else quite like it. It was built to guard the edges of an empire. The empire is now gone, but the dog remains.